Welcome back to the sweatshop, boys and girls. In today's video, we're going to be working on this 2010 Dodge Grand Caravan. What we're doing today on the Caravan is we are doing spark plugs, wires, and of course air filters. Now, a few things you should know about spark plugs and spark plug wires. Of course, the Champion is what is recommended stock from Chrysler, and I don't go with Champion because I've had them fail right out of the box on me. Of course, this happened years ago, so maybe their quality has improved. I don't know, and truthfully, I'm never going to find out because once you're screwed once by something, especially on a vehicle where it's a pain in the ass to get that spark plug out, there is never a point to feeling that same pain again. So I recommend NGK. They work really well, never had an issue with them, and yeah, they're great plugs. Same thing goes for the wires. I haven't had any issues with Champion wires, but because NGK has never let me down, I just buy the NGK wires. If you're in another country where NGK is not available, I can't think of another country where NGK is not available, but hopefully you can get your hands on Denso, which in my opinion is the equivalent in terms of quality. In terms of the air filters, unless you're really going to, be lazy and not change them, which I don't recommend, getting whatever air filter that is basically something that meets all your requirements, regardless of its price, is fine. In my opinion, as long as you're buying from a reputable supplier, you're good to go. This stuff here, I'm pretty sure it's all made in China, but yeah, as long as it's reputable, you're good to go. Generally for the aftermarket, the Fram stuff is most popular. Yeah, so just don't go ultra cheap and make sure you get it from a reputable supplier and you're gonna end up with decent stuff. Now, may be kind of confusing to some of you guys out there, but this one here is your air filter. And how you can tell generally, well, two things: they have a gasket on the air filter most times, as well as the pleats are much more closer together for airflow. You can see here, this is our cabin air filter, doesn't have as many pleats, and there is no gasket. Just in case you were wondering. Now, of course, before I start swapping all of this stuff out, do me a big favor, hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. Now, let's get this started. Of course, your first step is going to be to go ahead and open up the hood. Of course, this is our engine and this is our air filter housing. So we're going to go ahead and tackle the air filter first because it's the easiest thing underneath the hood to do. And then I'll go ahead and talk you through the spark plugs and exactly what you need to look at and why you should change them and what you should know about them. Yeah, that sounds legit. Now, to go ahead and take care of our air filter, we're going to need one tool, just a flat screwdriver and or a 8mm socket and ratchet if you can't get the stupid things off with a flat screwdriver. With your flat screwdriver, all you're going to need to do is go ahead and loosen up this clamp here on the airbox. The next thing you're going to need is a working pair of hands. You're going to force these tabs here forward towards the front of the car. As you force them forward, you're going to pull up on the box. Oh, this one's not sitting properly. I have to fix that now. Great. Then what you're going to do is just pull this guy up gently. Remember, it locks into place in the back there, so force this guy off. It'll make our lives a little bit easier. Now you can simply move this guy out of the way. Now, yeah, this is one of the reasons why you should replace your air filter from time to time. You can see there, got a little bit of rust forming. The reason why this is kind of a concern is because eventually this thing could rot to the point where you get speckles of rust going into your engine, which would not be good. Also, you can see here it's kind of dirty. It doesn't look excessively dirty because there's not all sorts of dirt, but as you can see there though, the pleats are kind of plugged. You can see by the amount of dirt, it is saturated. So it may not look super dirty like sometimes when I pull off a filter, but the pleats are pretty plugged, and this is going to cause you to stifle your engine a bit, which means bad gas mileage. Now, another thing when installing it, you got to be careful that you don't end up with this effect here where you crush the pleat, because two things: you can tear the filter, which didn't happen in this case, but second thing is the gasket doesn't make a good seal if the pleat is in the way. So yeah, hopefully that explains the air filter to you. Now down inside here, we've got some crap. So I'm going to take my blower quickly and we're just going to blow all this shit out of here. The other thing we're going to do before we do that, if you have access to compressed air, is take a nice plastic bag that is clean and just slip it over your intake. Can you tell I'm Canadian? Anyhow, take your bag, put it over, grab your blower, and remember, eyeglasses, very important. You should also wear a mask. It's not the... You know what? Wear a mask. Yeah, there shouldn't be any dirt on this side. If there is, well, your filter's not working. Make sure it's like this, that way nothing settles inside of it. Now, the reason why we do that is specifically two reasons: to make sure that we have a clean mating surface for our new gasket. Second thing is to make sure our filter doesn't suck up all the loose sediment, because of course you're going to have a little bit more airflow with your brand new filter, and you don't want to plug it up with all this crap. You can go crazy and wash the thing out. I'm not doing that, so yeah. Okay, now we can go ahead, grab our new filter, slip it into place properly, and then we'll put everything back together. Word of caution though, you can see it plainly exposed here. We have these tabs here that essentially hook this portion here of the box. You got 3 corresponding tabs that need to be put into the right place, because if you don't put them in properly, well, you're gonna suck all sorts of dirt in, and you'd be surprised how many times a customer will come from one of those lube joints where, you know, they've changed the filter and we see this sort of situation. So make sure you take your time and double check it once you're done. Now, this thing may appear to be a square to you, but it is not. It is rectangular in shape. So make sure you put it in properly. Again, double check to ensure that your pleats aren't hung up on anything. Get that bag out of the way, and then gently push the filter into place. Now, the reason why I push the filter in like this is that instead of pushing it down with the box, you can ensure that it's not going to get hung up on anything when you do put the box on top. Hopefully that makes sense to you. You can grab this guy, get it out of the way. Take the top portion of the box and slip it into place. Get that guy first. Now we're going to twist it like this and get the back portion there to sit properly. Let's slip that off and get a little bit more leverage. Why don't you want to? There we go. Okay, once you've lined it up, simply push down. Make sure you get both sides to hook. Okay, this one's a little bit more difficult, but we're hooked. And now slide your clamp and duct assembly back into place. And you can go ahead, grab your screwdriver and tighten it up. Remember, it is a worm clamp, so you know, it doesn't require 50 foot-pounds of torque. Nice and hand tight is good. You can do the wiggle test as long as you can't move the duct. There is sufficient pressure. That's it. We're good to go. Now let's talk about spark plugs. Spark plugs, what do they do? Well, they plug a hole in the cylinder head and they provide spark, which is integral to the operation of this shitbox or any ignition type engine. Now, of course, they are a wear item, so they need to be changed. Unfortunately, I could not find any information in the shop manual regarding when to change them, but I'm pretty sure that the owner's manual will have that information for you. Now, what I would recommend is checking the spark plug out physically if you don't know when they were changed last. So generally, spark plugs will have 2 specifications in the owner's manual. One being the amount of kilometers traveled and the other one being a time, generally indicated by years or months in the owner's manual, that tell you when you need to change out your spark plug. So regardless of whether you have 10,000 kilometers, if the spark plug is say 10 years old, it's going to need to be changed. That being said, if you don't know how many kilometers or you don't know how long the spark plug has been in there, it is relatively easy to pull one out on this engine and take a look. Now, one of the things, even without pulling it off, that you can see is if there's any rust on your spark plug. Down inside there, the hex portion of the spark plug is heavily rusted, and this is why I pulled the stupid thing out. Pull your cable off, you're gonna get a 5/8 spark plug socket or a 16mm spark plug socket and rip that guy out of there. Remember to do it with hand tools. You don't want to screw things up if you're not familiar with a gun. I'm not opposed to using it, but yeah, you don't want to give yourself a headache. Now, because this is an exposed system, meaning that the spark plug and the wires are exposed to the elements and dust and crap, you don't want to take your spark plug out without cleaning around the hole. So grab your blower and just blow the crap out of this section. And here is another piece of advice. Of course, it's quite easy for someone who is, a technician like myself to know where the spark plug wires go based on their length and all that sort of stuff. Of course, their numbers. If you're not familiar, I suggest only taking off one spark plug lead at a time, because if you take them all off and you screw things up, man, you'll want to rip your hair out, because it can be quite frustrating trying to figure out where things go. Now, not all is lost. If you have taken them all apart and you've kind of lost where they go, Chrysler has made it extra confusing for you. As you can see here, this is the way we would like every coil to be set up. You have 2, 4, and 6, which is great because it, is in a line. Easy, right? Oh, in the back there now, very different, my friends. You got 1 or 5, 1, and then 3, which, yeah, whatever. So, yeah, don't screw it up. What you're going to do is pull your spark plug out. With your spark plug out, you're going to notice a few things. First off, how much rust and corrosion is on the actual spark plug here, which is, to me, a considerable amount. As you can see here, we have quite a large gap as well on the spark plug. So what we're going to do now is get a gap tool and check the spark plug gap to show you. Because other than the obvious wear, which may not be so obvious to some of you at home, this thing is way out of gap. So this car is going to run quite a bit better once we change these spark plugs. Now, the specification for spark plug gap on this stupid engine is, it's stupid. I'll tell you why it's stupid. Because Chrysler, in its moronic form, doesn't put in the service limit for the spark plug in their stupid shop manual. At least I couldn't find it very easily. I'm pretty sure it's buried somewhere under some stupid name, but that shitty program shop key doesn't make it easy to find. Okay, we're going to have to cut that out. Now, of course, Chrysler didn't make it easy for me to find the service gap through their shop key service manual, or what they give to Shopkey, unfortunately, but we were able to find what is the specification for the spark plug. In terms of millimeters, it is 1.27 millimeters, and in terms of inches, it is 0.050 inches, which is 50 thou. So what you're going to do is grab your spark plug. You're going to grab a gap tool. And as you can see, this thing here goes up to 80 thou, or 2 millimeters for my metric friends. And you can see here, this is where we should be, right about here. But you know what? Yeah, this thing's garbage. It's complete crap. We're way over what the gap should be. Now, like I've said in the past, when you have to bridge a gap that is that big, you're essentially just working the hell out of your coil. And coils are way more expensive than spark plugs. So it's always advised to change these little things, which are relatively inexpensive. We picked these, well, the new ones up, not these ones. We picked up the new ones. I think it was like $7 or just a little bit more than $7 per plug. So nothing super expensive, and you can get, iridiums and all that other stuff. It's up to you. Just get what's recommended is what my recommendation is. The reason being is because, hey man, this is a Chrysler 3.3. You don't want to try and make too much power before you blow something and then you in tears on the side of the road because you thought this thing was a race car. If you get what I'm saying. Anyhow, that is pretty much the process. And now what I will do is I'm going to go through and show you how I change these spark plugs out. Really easy. It's not hard at all. And I'll show you then the process of going through the leads. Now, remember, I'm going to do this, I've done this, I don't know, 100 times. So make sure you do one lead at a time if you haven't done this before. That's my cue to stop talking because that pile of shit compressor just kicked in. Now, very important, make sure regardless of how nice your new ones look, they can fool you because, you know, your delivery guy could drop these stupid things or step on them or something. And, well, you might have some issues that tissues might solve if you try to put it in. Go ahead, grab your gap tool and just make sure your gap is good. You can see there, well, you probably can't see because this thing's shit, but we're basically at 40 thou, which is a good gap. I'm not going to increase the size of the gap as per the specification because I don't know exactly what the specification is. It did say what the gap was, but it didn't specify whether it was new or service gap. So we're going to leave these guys as they are because NGK usually gaps them for the application specifically. So yeah, don't mess with it. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead, throw the plugs in. What you're going to do is take this guy and put him in dry. Spin him by hand. Do not catch the threads for your spark plug with a driver or ratchet or spark plug tool. Do it by hand because if you screw it up, well, it's going to be painful. And then just spin it on. Now, go ahead, set your torque wrench to 13 foot-pounds or 17.5 Newton meters. One spark plug installed. Now I'm going to shut up and I'm going to do the rest of them. Now, if you're replacing your wires, you can yank the hell out of them. If you're not replacing your wires, I know I said I was going to shut up, but bear with me. This is important. If you're not going to replace your wires, you want a tool to wrench these guys free. You want to twist them. Once you can twist them, they should pop off relatively easy, like so. Of course, if that silver portion of the lead there is on your spark plugs, well, it doesn't matter whether you thought you were going to save them. They're garbage and you got to replace them. What is your problem, boy? You know, this DeWalt has been acting up, and I don't have the time to take this bitch in, but it is driving me nuts. Now, if I leave that clip in where I'm, oh, geez, that's failed pretty good, man. Wow. So it looks like these guys were double platinum plugs, but you can see there in the middle, the Champion double platinum has dropped away. I've never seen this with an NGK. It's maybe hard to see, but that is a hole in the electrode. I'm surprised it hasn't come through the other side, but I'm surprised this thing didn't have a goddamn misfire code. That's amazing. Anyhow, amazing, Chrysler, amazing. Now just slip this guy in here. Now you may have seen some dust and rust come off the spark plug. You want to inspect the hole to make sure none of it went down inside. Try not to blow inside. If you do need to blow it out, stick the nozzle inside the cylinder and then blow. That way it'll create pressure and push the shit out. And if you don't have a blower, it's gonna be a bit harder to take care of these sort of things. So, you know, maybe get a blower. Of course, with your holes plugged, you can blow the crap out of there. Always run it up by hand, never use a power tool. And if you're reusing your spark plugs, because they are good, you never take them out. With a power tool, always break them free by hand, because the percussion from your impact, if you do choose to use one, will ruin shit, potentially. You can easily break the porcelain on your spark plug, which would lead to a headache. All right. There we go, spark plugs installed. Now I'm gonna go get my leads and yeah, we'll do some more blah blah blah. Now, of course, the nice thing with most spark plug sets or spark plug wire sets is that they are labeled. So of course we know what side this is. This is the second bank. We also know which cylinder is number 2. It is this one here. Now, with this being said, if for some reason you get confused, remember the front of the engine is where you're going to have the cylinders that are smaller in numerical order. So number 2 here, 4 here, and 6. The spark plug order doesn't necessarily correspond, but the cylinder order will always be like that. So on the other side, it'll be 1, 3, and 5. You can't mix that up, because if you do, it'll run like dog shit. Now, you're going to pick out the ones that are suitable for this side, which is 2, 4, 6. And then we'll put them on. Twist and pull.
Twist and pull. Twist and pull.
Then throw on the floor. Now, very important, sometimes there is corrosion that can build up on these leads. Make sure it is corrosion free. If it is, of course, you can go ahead now and install your spark plugs. The other nice thing with them, they are cut to length. So, I mean, you can't You gotta be partially brain dead to screw this up. When putting the spark plug leads on, ensure that you hear the click. When I say the click, I mean specifically the lead clicking into place like that. And now to place them on as well, you want to give it a little twist to make sure that this thing is seated properly. If you're in the Toronto area, I might be able to help you. If you're not, well, yeah, good luck. Anyhow, that is this side done. Doesn't take very long at all. Now, the other side, unfortunately, will take probably double or triple the time. For you guys at home, probably at least an hour to do. The reason being is because you're going to literally have to hug the engine. And now is one of those times where you pray to God your arm is long enough. Essentially, you're going to have to get your arm in this region here, and you're going to have to reach behind. Now, if you're a technician, shouldn't take you any longer than half an hour, but you know, just take your time. There's no real rush here to finish this stupid thing quickly. You want to make sure you don't screw anything up. Now, before I go ahead and do that side, because I'm not going to be able to show you anything, unfortunately, I will explain a little bit about our coil. Now, Chrysler, of course, has made this relatively easy. What they've done here is numbered each cylinder. The spark plug lead, of course, corresponds with the specific cylinder. So really, you can't screw this up. I have explained now, of course, how to identify the cylinder from front to back of the engine. So as long as you're watching the whole video and not skipping through it, you're not screwed. Over here is number 5, and over here is number 1, and this is number 3. Of course, it could have been made a little bit easier by putting the slightly confusing part on the front side, but really, it's not an issue. Of course, you may have some questions as to why this is. Well, this is what is called a waste spark system. So we have individual coils per 2 cylinders. So you have 1 coil for number 2 and number 5. What happens is when number 2 is on the compression stroke, number 5 will be elsewhere in the cycle, which means that this will be the cylinder that has the spark sent out to it, but of course it will be a waste or wasted spark because it can't utilize the ignition signal from the coil or spark plug. And the only one that will find that ignition signal useful is number 2. So hopefully that makes sense to you. And the same is for, 1 and 4 and 3 and 6. What you're going to do if you're easily confused, like I said earlier, make sure you do 1 lead at a time. And yeah, this is the pathway to the back of the engine here. Essentially, you're going to have to put your face somewhere up on the cowl and just kind of wiggle around back there. Yeah, take your time. I'll see you back in like half an hour. And remember, it is exactly the same process as before. Clean everything out with the blowgun before you go back there and start feeling around, because ain't nobody wanting any dirt in their holes. I'll see you back. Okay, so we've got our spark plugs in there. They're all torqued and cinched down nicely. I can't really see, but it looks like we might be developing a valve cover leak. Anyhow, you can see here, that is number 1 there on the left side. The center is, of course, number 3, and there is number 5. There is absolutely no room back there, so you're gonna have fun trying to get your tools in there. Anyhow, when you get your spark plugs out and you put your new ones back in, of course, you're going to thread them in by hand. Of course, when you do that, you're going to need a 6-inch extension and your torque wrench to torque them, because no other real configuration will work. A bit of a pain in the ass. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put my spark plug leads on. I'll see you back. In case you're wondering, I just had my camera in this area here. So yeah, and with it in that area, we could not fit it past this thing here. So I had to angle it. Yeah, that's just to show you how tight it is. Of course, this is the area where you stick your arm back inside there, and you can rest your head on top of the intake. Unless you're taller, then it's cowl panel, which is that guy over there. So yeah, yay Chrysler. And I'll tell you, this isn't even that bad, not compared to some of the other craptacular shit boxes I gotta work on. So yeah, Chrysler actually did a fairly decent job with the 3.3. What you're going to do now is go ahead, line up your spark plug wires. You're going to identify, of course, the shortest one, and then make sure you look at the number on the spark plug. That'll tell you, of course, where it has to be on the coil. Now I'm gonna go put them all in. All right. Hey, okay, so essentially all you need to do is run your wires if you have a 2010 3.3, you will see that Chrysler has labeled the pathway so that when you put your wires in, of course, the pathway keeps it from rubbing and chafing and destroying itself. This here is number 1, 3, and then 5 at the end. Now remember, that doesn't correspond with the way your spark plugs meet up here. So remember, numbers on your spark plug leads should match the numbers over here. And of course, the cylinders on your engine are set up as 1, 3, and then 5 towards the end of the engine. Okay, hopefully there are no mistakes at home and I've been as clear as I possibly could be, and you guys are good to go. Now let's go do the hardest part of the job, the cabin air filter. Why is it the hardest? Because it's usually the most disgusting part of the job. Let's go do it now. Well, unfortunately, Chrysler did not care about cabin air filters or air quality within the cabin of your vehicle in 2010, because this thing does not carry one. I am as surprised as you boys and girls may be, possibly. I'm pretty sure I've replaced them on the Town and Country before in other Caravans, or older Caravans. I don't know, maybe my memory serves me incorrectly this time, but there is no cabin air filter for this Dodge Caravan. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be showing you how to replace them. Now, what I do want to say is I am astonished, really, that this thing ran as well as it did. It had a few hiccups here and there, but I'm used to Chrysler products coming with a weird sort of misfire with certain vehicles right from the get-go, so I'm, not completely thrown off by that sort of stuff. The spark plugs on this thing were phenomenal, man. Like you look at the rust is one thing, but you can see there, that spark plug has a crater in the electrode, the ground electrode. And the center electrode is, it's not the most terrible thing, but the best spark plug was at 80 thou, which is way too much of a gap. So yeah, hats off to the coil for not dying, and of course to the 3.3 for performing so well with such shitty spark plugs. Now another thing you'd want to make sure is that you can see here I got a little bit of slippage, and why I did is because of course this is the back plug and I can't see whether my socket was down all the way or not, and of course because of the rust it didn't go down all the way, so when I turned it, it slipped. And that's one of the most traumatizing things, because if this thing obviously does strip, it's going to be a pain in the ass to get out if it gets rounded off. So in short, if your spark plugs look like that, replace them. And air filter, I think the interval is like every 15,000. I realistically wouldn't exceed 2 years or 25,000 for these things. Of course, you can look at the owner's manual, and for the spark plug wires, I'm not sure what the interval is, but if you're going to do, spark plugs, and once you're sure of when you replace them, I wouldn't exceed, say, 6 years or something like that, and maybe 100,000 kilometers. I'd probably just replace them every second time that I replace the plugs. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. We are good to go. Well, the last step to do is to go ahead, take this thing for a test drive, make sure you start it up, make sure there's no misfires or issues that tissues won't solve, and you're good to go. Of course, hopefully you found the video entertaining as well as informative. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss one of my new videos. And as always, thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one. Welcome back to the sweatshop, boys and girls. In today's video, we're going to be working on this 2010 fucking compressor. Cocksucker. What we are doing on the Dodge is we are replacing the cabin air filter as well as the air filter and the spark plugs and the spark plug wires up top in the corner there. Now, I don't know why I said that. It says wire set right on the box. I'm pretty sure most of these folks can read. Stupid. What we're doing today on the Caravan is we are replacing the air filters as well as the spark plugs and wires. What we're going to do, I don't know why I said that. Oh, Jim, come on. This is early in the morning. Get her done. Thanks, Hoist. Appreciate that. Right before I started speaking. Good stuff. Now, I'm not replacing any other filters or fuel filters or anything else. Well, I don't know. Let's just start this fucking clip over again. So yeah, just don't go ultra cheap. Of course, your first step is going to be, fuck, man. The fuck up. Stupid Bluetooth. Is working period. Grab this tube here and just wrestle it off. You know what? You don't even need to because there's so much goddamn length there. Yeah, we don't need to do that. There's way more than enough length. Is that a bug? Is it alive? No, it's dead. Which means, I can't see shit like this. I think that means, I don't know what the fuck I just said. I just rambled on for about 10 minutes. 2 or 3 years. I'm gonna start this fucking thing over again. Spark plugs. What do they do? Well, they provide spark, of course. Why are they called spark plugs? Well, because they plug a hole. Spark plugs. Spark plugs. Spark plugs. This is fucking retarded. Generally years. That will tell you generally years or for my metric friends, a 16 5/8 socket. Oh wait, that doesn't make no sense. And just blow the shit right out of here. You're also going to notice that we have a large gap between the electrode and the fuck is that thing called again? Son of a bitch. Spark plugs go where? What the fuck did I just say? Make no fucking sense. So of course we knew. So 2, 4, and 6. What the fuck is this guy doing over there? The fuck is he dragging a skateboard or some shit across the foot? What the fuck's he doing? So remember, at the front of the engine, the smaller the numerical number the cylinder will be. That sounded like some Yoda knowledge. I lost my fucking train of thought. There's like a 10-minute gap. Either 5 or 2, one of them will be on the intake stroke. So the spark itself is useless. Oh, wait, is that intake stroke or fucking exhaust? I can't remember now. Whatever. Anyhow, oh, don't shake the fucking camera, Jim. Gosh darn it. A little bit easier by making the leads that were a bit confusing put on this. Oh, fuck. You know what? I'm going to rehearse this because I fucking do it. And that's stupid. Yeah. What happens is when you do that, you'll need a spark plug tool, which, well, I don't know why I said that. Now, just to be clear, when I was talking about the 3.3 being, oh, fuck. I mean, they're not the world's worst motor, but whatever. Fuck compressor. Anyhow, we're going to talk it through this one, boys and girls. Fuck it. No, we're not. I hate editing that shit out. It's such a fucking pile of junk. Focus, you fuck. That will tell you, of course, which, what am I gonna, this, oh, hit the fucking powers. See with your gut, Jimmy. Well, all that's left to do, boys and girls, is to hit that fucking subscribe. What the fuck am I saying? What the fuck is my ending again? And for 2, hey!